now tuned in to Frankyrose's Crime Updates. Crime Updates. You are now tuned in to Frankyrose's Crime Updates. Crime Updates.
Let's switch to suspense. Let's switch to suspense.
You are now tuned in to Frankyrose's Crime Updates. Crime Updates. Crime Updates. You are now tuned in to Frankyrose's Crime Updates. Crime Updates.
name is Ivan Robert Milat. Australia's worst serial killer was found guilty yesterday of murdering 7 backpackers. He's to spend the rest of his natural life behind bars for killings a judge said were savage and cruel, amongst the worst of their type. Milat was also found guilty of abducting an 8th backpacker, the one who got away, Englishman Paul Onions. Without him, Milat might still be at large, still killing, because only through his evidence were police able to pinpoint Milat as a murderer. Onions, you see, had gone perilously close to being another victim, and the experience had haunted him. Tonight, his story for the first time in all its chilling detail. Paul Onions is the only person to stare down the barrel of Ivan Milat's gun and live to tell the story. And just as well, because Ivan Milat could still be at large and still be killing if it wasn't for this young Englishman and his love of adventure.
Australia seemed the one last place I thought on earth where there was plenty of adventure left.
The last frontier.
No, that's how I imagine it.
Where men are men.
I thought, give me a chance to relax after being in the Navy, get a job and see plenty of sunshine and have a good look around.
As a teenager, it was the Royal Navy that gave Paul the travel bug. By age 24 and working as an air conditioning mechanic, he wanted to travel again, this time with a backpack around Australia. So Paul left his job in Birmingham and flew to Sydney. Horror has a human face, then its name is Ivan Robert Milat. Australia's worst serial killer was found guilty yesterday of murdering 7 backpackers. He's to spend the rest of his natural life behind bars for killings a judge said were savage and cruel, amongst the worst of their type. Milat was also found guilty of abducting an 8th backpacker, the one who got away, Englishman Paul Onions. Without him, Milat might still be at large, still killing, because only through his evidence were police able to pinpoint Milat as a murderer. Onions, you see, had gone perilously close to being another victim, and the experience had haunted him. Tonight, his story for the first time in all its chilling detail. Paul Onions is the only person to stare down the barrel of Ivan Milat's gun and live to tell the story. And just as well, because Ivan Milat could still be at large and still be killing if it wasn't for this young Englishman and his love of adventure.
Australia seemed the one last place I thought on earth where there was plenty of adventure left.
The last frontier.
No, that's how I imagine it.
Where men are men.
I thought, give me a chance to relax after being in the Navy, get a job and see plenty of sunshine and have a good look around.
As a teenager, it was the Royal Navy that gave Paul the travel bug. By age 24 and working as an air conditioning mechanic, he wanted to travel again, this time with a backpack around Australia. So Paul left his job in Birmingham and flew to Sydney. At first, he stayed in a youth hostel with a few mates. Then he took a train to Sydney's outskirts to hitch a ride down the Hume Highway. He was headed for Mildura to go for a picnic. It was the Australia Day long weekend of 1990.
You were wandering along here,
Yes.
looking for something to drink.
Yeah.
So it all comes back.
Oh, yeah.
He approached you.
Oh, as I came out the shop, he says, do you need... He see my rucksack on my back, he says, do you need a lift? And I thought, oh, great, yeah.
There's the card. Bring me back in the back and we'll get going. My lucky day.
Yeah, brilliant. That's all I need. And so this is where the journey starts.
And you meet your first Australian.
Yeah. Well, I thought it was... He looked a bit like Dennis Lilly to me.
The cricketer.
Because I like cricket. And the only Australians I'd really seen was at the cricket match. So it was a big impression at first. I thought, oh, you know, as you laugh to yourself, I thought, oh, it's Dennis Lilly.
If only Paul knew. Just a couple of weeks before, the man he was sitting next to murdered two Melbourne backpackers, Deborah Everest and James Gibson. Paul was to be the next target. As Milat drove toward his killing ground, Paul began to sense him getting edgy.
It became a bit anti-racial to the, you know, the immigrants who were living in Australia. He found them, you know, quite offensive, really.
You go out west and you don't know if you're in Vietnam or bloody China.
I was so happy to get the ride. And then for all of a sudden, I thought, oh no. First go, I've got the nutter. That was my initial reaction.
I don't care where you come from. It's just not bloody right.
An hour and a half south of Sydney are the Southern Highlands, nice tidy townships and grand weekenders. And just a few minutes off the highway, up a dirt road, is the Belangalo State Forest. As I approached the turnoff to this road, Paul Onions really began to get the jitters.
And then, for some reason, we just started to slow down a bit. And he just kept looking in his mirror. And if you can drive yourself, you find it a bit odd. And then I said, what's the problem, lad? And he says, oh...
We'll lose the radio signal, mate, when we get this far out of Sydney. I'm going to pull over up the road and I'm going to get some cassettes from underneath the seat so we can listen to some music, eh?
That was his excuse, really, to get some cassettes from under the seat to put some music on. Well, it just seemed odd because there was actually cassettes in between us. Once the vehicle was pulled over and he got out to search under the seat, I thought, you know, there's two sides to your brain. There's the calm side saying, oh, you should be happy this guy's given you a lift. What are you worried about? Then there's the other side saying, hold on, there's something doesn't feel right there. So the initial reaction to me then was, well, I'll just stretch my legs and see how it provokes him.
Why are you getting out of the car?
After all, it's a sunny day and there are
Yeah,
quite a few cars
that's
around.
I had
and
a
it's
look around. I thought, oh, well, what's the problem? Surely not here, like, not in this situation. So I thought I'll just get back in and see what happens. So I got back in the vehicle and just put my seatbelt on. He watched me do it. He got back in. So I thought, oh, no problem at all. Then the next minute he jumped straight back out and says, I'll just have to look under the seat one more time. And I thought, this is it.
I'll have one of those cassettes, huh?
So he just bent over, looked under the seat, and just pulled out a revolver. And obviously all the questions was answered in one movement.
Easy, bro. What's wrong, mate? Look, please, just calm down, mate.
And then the next minute he just pulled this rope from under the seat. And when I seen the rope, it just scared me more than the gun. But as soon as I seen the rope, I thought, oh, that's going to be it's going to take a bit of time. He's going to do whatever he wants.
It's a robbery, that's what it is.
I just thought I'm out of here, like. I was just, obviously panicking and just running off away from the vehicle. I heard him shout, "Stop else I'll shoot, stop else I'll shoot." And then I just heard the gun go off. And that was like a massive jolt to your system, like you knew it was for real then, like, oh God, really panicking then. I just really panicking then to try and stop some vehicles, and they obviously could see what was happening, and they were just stopping, slowing down, and just driving straight off. So, oh, now I'm just going to stop. It's like a passing of time. I was just about to give up and say, oh, yeah, he's won, I better go back. And I thought, if I go back there, that he just saying that was the end. If I go back there, and that sort of when I made my mind up what I was going to do. I thought the next vehicle that comes over the bow of the hill, I'm just going to stop it no matter what.
What, jump in front of it?
Yeah, it just seemed I'd rather stop a car, get killed, than go back to that vehicle and face the end that way.
If I hadn't stopped, yeah, he would have.
Amazing, hey? He's one lucky guy.
Joined the others in the forest.
Or you'd have run him over.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's a very lucky man.
It was Mrs. Joanne Berry who rescued Paul. She was driving to Canberra with his sister and their 5 children on board.
Panic. He was shaking, absolutely petrified. I think he just about screamed, "Help me, he's got a gun." And that was very clear. So, and then afterwards when he dived in the car, he sort of dived in the sliding door and sort of crouched behind the driver's seat. So he'd gone right across the car.
As she pulled away, I just looked back and had one quick last glance.
When you did look back, as the car retreated, did you see the look in his face?
Like a smirk, like. It's a bit strange the way he was looking. That's the last impression I had, like.
Joanne turned around and drove back to the nearest police stations.
Barrel police station. And
So I'm going to pop over and see what you guys are thinking as we go. Pop over here and see what you guys think. Sorry about all my lovely, rookie mistakes, of course, this morning. I want to see... There's a school of thought that Millet didn't kill alone. A pile of cigarettes, butts at the murder scenes. Ivan didn't smoke. So, do you know what? Audio's a bit low. How's that? Oh, you'll be pretty sure, Molly, I promise you. I promise you. I was having problems figuring out how to put my own video out. I finally figured it out after pushing a bunch of buttons and showing everybody my screens but yeah. But you know what, James, I have to perfect. I have to agree with you. I mean, most of them were with another person, and they would be found like a distance away from each other, which in itself is kind of unusual. And they found a lot of things that belonged to these victims in another brother's, I don't know if it was the house or the garage. So I have a problem thinking that he just did that, stuffed him into a brother's place and he didn't know about it. And I mean, there's what, like 10 Milat boys. There wasn't too many of them that didn't end up in the Hooskow for at least something for a while. And yeah, we'll watch a few of these. We'll do mine after this. And then I want to watch a couple videos that are online right now and give everyone kind of an idea about how big this Belangalo Forest is, how easy it is to, I mean, not only get lost, but get hidden. And yeah, there's a lot to Ivan Milat and the Milat family. Absolutely.
I went in with Paul and spoke to a young female constable in there, and
In their panic, no one got the number plate, but Paul told his story to the local policewoman on duty. Trouble is, that's where the information stayed, buried in the bowels of the police station. Remember that back in 1990, the location of the attack had no significance. It would be 2 years before the first bodies were found there. Paul returned nervously to Sydney. There was no further police follow-up. Paul's girlfriend, Michelle, joined him to tour Australia, this time in a bus. But back home in England, Paul couldn't forget, no matter how hard he tried.
When I was going on holiday, I kept being sick and I was tired all the time, wasn't I? Damn right, much sleep I had, I was just tired all the time.
Yeah, he was physically ill, but we never actually linked it to the Australia thing.
Milat must have been shaken by the close call with the Paul Onions. He stopped killing for about a year, as far as anyone knows, but then more.
And you see that there? I don't believe for a second. I don't think that he quit. I think chances are just good he went to another area. You know, Ivan worked on a road crew. And at one point, I think he was even driving truck. So there's more in my mind. You don't just, when you're this sick and twisted, you don't just stop.
More backpackers disappeared. In Easter 1992, 2 British girls were murdered. This made big news in the British papers.
Half a world away in Birmingham on September the 21st, 1992, British newspapers were carrying a story about the discovery of the bodies of those missing British backpackers in the Belangalo Forest. The details included a map which pinpointed Bow. It convinced Paul Onions of what he'd already suspected for so long, that what had happened to him 2 years ago on the Hume Highway wasn't a robbery at all, but was part of something much more sinister.
So that's when I decided to speak to somebody. I just got in touch with the embassy and the Australian embassy, and they just gave me a telephone number in Sydney.
By this stage, a police task force was in full swing. A record reward was on offer. Ivan Milat's name was already on a routine list of suspects because of previous offences. Paul's information would be the big breakthrough. And at last, the incident report from Bowral Police Station was unearthed. As he flew to Australia to be interviewed, Paul became worried. Milat had his passport and address. Was it really the police he'd been speaking with by phone, or was it Milat?
Now that would be scary because that's what I would start thinking, like, who, am I walking into a trap here? Like...
What you got to remember as well, he had all my possessions, my backpack, everything. Sports, my personal letters, so he would have known everything about it.
So you were paranoid, perhaps understandably, but you're thinking, maybe it's not the police I'm going to talk to.
I know it's laughable now, but that's what I was thinking at the time.
So, on arrival in Sydney, Paul was relieved when 2 detectives met him and displayed their IDs. Paul's trip was a turning point. He pinpointed Ivan Milat from a series of photos. Milat became suspect number 1.
Went through all the pictures, and that was the one that gave me initial reaction. It's made me easy when I looked at it, and then when I got closer, I said to him, that's the person who I think I met that day.
After Paul's information, Ivan Milat was arrested charged and went to trial, pleading his innocence.
Bullshit, mate. I didn't kill no one. Didn't kill no one, mate.
It was only when Paul was revealed as a key witness that he finally broke the news to his parents and 4 brothers of how close he'd come to being another victim. Until then, he'd told the family in Birmingham it had been nothing more than a robbery. He wanted to spare them the agony he'd seen in the parents of the victims. So you can feel for those parents.
Oh yes, I said I felt for her. She was looking out for her.
I mean, I still believe that there's a lot I don't know, a lot of the details, but you realise how lucky he is to be alive.
Ivan Milat has destroyed lives all over the world, killed 7 and devastated their loved ones in England, Germany and in Australia. Even Paul Onions, the one who got away, will be haunted for the rest of his life.
You'll never forget this place,
All that feeling.
or that face, the face of that
yes,
man.
yeah. That
bit-
last look. As he looked at me, I just looked and I thought, I just don't want to be there. I just want to get away.
So do you think much about the possibility of the $500,000 reward?
Obviously, it's only human nature to think about it. But the reward I've got is I've got my life. After I realise what's happened, and that's all I'm happy with that, really.
Anything else is a bonus.
Yeah, anything else is a bonus, correct. That's the best way of answering that, Charles.
So there, that's kind of an introduction to Ivan Milat. Yes, he did. He absolutely did. Yeah. Matthew is his name, Matthew Milat. He actually changed his name. Milat wasn't his last name, but he changed it to Milat because he thought Ivan was pretty cool. So, let's see here. I'm gonna okay. Market set go. No, let's go back over here. You guys don't have to watch my intro.
And listen to is just my own personal opinion, and you should always do your own research. Everything that we discuss is public knowledge, and we are just basically discussing my point of view. I am the furthest thing from a professional. This is all available on the Google search. So, 19 through to 1992, when 7 backpackers went missing and were found in Australia's beautiful Belangalo State Forest between September 1992 and November 1993. Then, in 1996, an Australian man named Ivan Milat was convicted of all 7 murders, as well as a bunch of other charges. The serial killings started to be known as the backpack murders, or him as the backpack killer. And Ivan was also known to many by the name of Bill. So, all of the 7 victims were found in shallow graves in the Belangalo State Forest. Ivan Milat died of cancer at the age of 74. He died while he was still in the Blue Scout, and these were all due to the conviction in 1996. So, the 7 victims were aged 19 to 22, And they all disappeared when they were hitchhiking just outside of Sydney. But Ivan's death now means that his suspected involvement in a bunch of other disappearances might never be solved. Ivan Milat and the brutality of his crimes have ruined the peacefulness of Belangalo Forest, and now to many it's now become known for terror. The vicious killings were done by a good-looking, tanned, muscular guy. It was a total surprise to everyone who knew him, and many to this day still believe Ivan was innocent. But with that said, I still wonder if Ivan didn't, I don't know if he did this on his own. Maybe he had the help of one of his brothers. I mean, that's what some out there were saying about this. And there's one brother that maybe I could see. So, Ivan was one of 6 crime suspects in the cases of 3 women, Robin Hickey, Amanda Robinson, and Leanne Goodall. All of them went missing close to Newcastle, which is Millet City. This happens to be very close to where Ivan was working at the time as a road worker. These attacks all happened within 4 months of each other, between 1978 and 1979. There is a possibility that Ivan Milat did not act alone, and this has been speculated on for all of these years. During his trial, Ivan's lawyer tried to blame one of his brothers, and police did investigate the possibility that he might have had an accomplice. Justice David Hunt said it was clear to him that at least 2 of the killings, 2 people had to have been. He always believed that to be the case.
So my background on here is the Belangalo Forest. I just think, I wonder if it's actually just like a beautiful, beautiful spot. Yeah. It's a very interesting case, absolutely.
So, was one of his brothers involved? I don't know. In my mind, there's a really good possibility. Ivan Milat was the 5th of 14 siblings and one of 10 brothers. That is one hell of a large family. They were known to be feisty and many times not up to much good. Most were very well known to the cops. Ivan's dad, Stephen Marco, who started going by the name Stephen Milat and started working on the harbor in Sydney soon after he migrated from Croatia after the First World War. And his mother, Margaret Elizabeth Hiddleston, took care of the home and all of his kids. She married Ivan's dad when she was 16 years old. Ivan's dad eventually started a tomato plantation on property located in Moorbank, which is located in western Sydney. Ivan did not stand out among his siblings. And as they got older, they started getting involved in smoking thefts and started doing B&Es as well as burglaries. It would have been a hectic house with all of those kids running.
I can't even imagine having all those kids. It's like, what the hell? I'd be in the freaking loony bin.
Ivan was the 5th of 14. Milat displayed antisocial behaviors at a young age, leading to a stint in a residential school when he was 13. By the age of 17, Ivan was in juvenile detention center. For that, at age 19, he was involved in shop breaking. He was sentenced to 18 months for breaking something. And after he was released, he was arrested for driving a stolen car and sentenced to 2 years of labor. In September 1967, age 22, he was sentenced for 3 years. But back again. Ivan really seemed to enjoy that lifestyle. As he got older, he served longer stays in jail for a bunch of Viennese. Ivan seemed to love fast cars, not necessarily his own, but fast cars. He seems to have had a, kind of a quietness about him. Somehow he literally found a way to have affairs with two of his brother's girlfriends at the same time. Whoa! He's lucky he didn't get his butt kicked. In April 1971, he was charged with abduction of two 18-year-old hitchhikers, one of whom he S.A.'d. While awaiting trial, he was involved in a string of robberies with some of his brothers. Before faking his own death and fleeing to New Zealand for a year. He was rearrested in 1974, but the robbery and kidnap cases both failed at trial with the help of their lawyer, John Marston. It was at that time, 1975, that Ivan Milat took a job as a truck driver. That's just what a person needs. Psychopath with big truck and long drives. Ivan liked to brag to his friends about his love of violence. He once described to a friend how to turn a person into a head on a stick by stabbing them in the spine. This is what happened to these young people. I do not believe that's a coincidence. If it is, it's a big one. Deborah Everett, 19-year-old, and James Gibson, 19, both from Melbourne, left Sydney to go to Albury, close to the border of New South Wales, and Victoria for Confess near Albury on December 30th, 1989. They planned to meet up with friends, but they never made it. After neither one of them had made contact with their families in a couple of weeks, the families filed missing persons reports. And it was
Yeah, I'm gonna go back here where you guys are for a second. Hello. Yeah, Alice, I don't know. I can't get it any higher. I don't know if it's because it's a recording, because on my side, like, everything's cranked. I can't know it. Yeah, and James, like, right? I agree. I think that's why this case is still fascinating. I mean, he lived to a ripe old age in the Hooskow. And some of these brothers, like I said, there was literally stuff found in their homes, like sleeping bags and things along those lines. So I don't know how, like I say, I don't know how Ivan would have been able to just sneak this stuff into his, his brother's place. And on top of that, Ivan says that the cops staged everything at his place, which is highly unlikely, right? He never, I mean, he lived until that yeah, he only died a few years ago. You're exactly right. And there's a bunch of his family that still swear he's innocent. And then you've got, I think his name is Boris, and he seems like the kindest of the Milats that I've seen. And he's been on quite a few shows where he's just like, you know, he's a psychopath is basically what he would say. But he was so worried about, like, he would get to tears thinking about the families of these victims. You know, all young, in one of the safest countries. Like, you hear a lot of people go to Australia to backpack. It's supposed to be safe. But there is this, you know, we know of at least one. And, I mean, the law even believes that a lot of these he could not have done alone. But he took these lives. They were doing nothing but trying to do something that a lot of young people would love to be able to do. Go to a different country and bomb around. Like, oh my God. And for that, they ran into this guy, and yeah, that was, and he was vicious. He didn't just do things kindly. So, and I wonder if they ever tried getting DNA from the cigarette butts. I would have to say yes, you know, just because it's such a big case, and if they've got something there that could tie in another brother or something, I think they would. You know, it's pretty sophisticated now compared to what it was, you know, back in these days. But yeah, we'll go through some of the like other videos that have been done by like the mainstream media, and it's amazing, you know, little tidbits here and there. I try to get as much as I can into my videos, but in order to do some of these cases justice, you almost have to do a documentary. There's so many rabbit holes. So I'll make sure we go through that and, yeah, learn about Ivan Milat and the Milats. Okay.
A similar routine for the other victims as well. Simone Schmidl was...
Sorry about the volume.
She left Sydney for Melbourne on January 20th, 1991. She was supposed to meet her mom at the airport in Melbourne 4 days later, and she was also announced. There is also Deborah Newtower, who was 21, and Anja Akshi, who was 20. They were also German. They also left King's Cross Hospital in Sydney on December 26th, 1991. They were supposed to be making a 4,000-kilometer trip to Darwin, and then they were supposed to be with Prince to Munich a month later, and they never made that midnight. A 4,000-kilometer trip, that is a long way to stick your thumb up. Carolyn Clark, 21, Sue and Joanne Walters, 22, were from Maesteg, I think it's in Wales. They actually met at a backpackers hostel in Sydney, King's Cross area, and they shared, I don't know if it's a name, but they were roommates for a while. In April of 1992, they left Sydney. They planned to go south toward Victoria or Perth in Western Australia. And again, when weeks went by without any contact with their parents, both families realized something was wrong. they contacted police in both the UK and Australia. In April of 1992, an Australian TV show followed Gabor Neubauer's parents as they searched for their son and started pointing out the other missing backpackers in the area. It was in September 1992 when two runners found the first two bodies. It was Carolyn Clark and they found Joanne Walters about 90 feet away. Joanne had been stabbed 21 times in the back and 14 times in the chest, and her spine had been severed by a nasty blow. Lying in the bush about 10 meters away was Carolyn Clark, and she'd been shot 10 times in the head, as well as being blindfolded and stabbed in the chest. See, like, holy crap, what a monster. Like, what he was capable of is beyond my comprehension. This is another one of those times that you think you can judge a book by its cover. Yeah, no. To see pictures of Ivan when he was young, I think he looked friendly enough. Nah, wrong. Total sicko. I also wonder if he could have actually been able to attack these people on his own. That's still one of my biggest questions. Did anyone help Ivan? I don't know. What do you guys think? The nasty discoveries did not stop. It was a year later, on October 1993, that a man collecting firewood found another body, well, bones. This time it was James Gibson, and finding James Gibson's body in Belangalo puzzled the investigators because his camera and backpack had been found at Galston Gorge, which was like over 120 kilometers or 75 miles north. Then they found Deborah Everest close by. It was about a month later that the three German backpackers were found. The first one found was Simone Schmidl, who hadn't been seen since January 1991. Then Anja Hatschiev and Gabor Neubauer, who we know disappeared in December of 1992. On the 1st of November 93, a skeleton was found in a clearing along a fire trail in the forest during a police sweep. It was later identified to be Simone Schmidl, but the clothing found at the scene was not Simone's. It matched another missing backpacker, an Anja. Like, okay, not confusing, right? So, November 4th, 1993, the bodies of Anja and Gabor were then found on a nearby fire trail, also in shallow grades, about 160 feet apart. The victims were all found face down, with their arms behind their backs, hidden with leaves and branches on top of them. Many had been brutally stabbed or shot. One had actually been beheaded. Most of them showed signs of SA. There is no wonder why he is considered one of the worst serial killers to date. On November 5th, 1993, New South Wales government increased the reward in relation to the killing to $500,000 after developing the profile of the killer. The police placed an enormous volume of data, and many sources. Investigators applied link analysis technology, and as a result,
coming back to you guys. Let's see. Yes, they did. They should have had a whole life in front of them. And I mean, living a pretty pure life, to go out there and at that age want to explore instead of thinking about, things a lot of people, those young ages, they're still partying pretty hard. These are people that were exploring, and in a country that we know is completely safe. But no place is completely safe. There's always a nut bar somewhere, and this is definitely one of Australia's. I've done, a fair amount of research on him, and he actually is that Wolf Creek. This story is, I don't know how loosely based, but it is after Ivan Milat and the backpacker killings. They also call him, they call him the backpacker murders, and him the backpacker killer is basically how you find him. Oh, thank you, Alice. And thank you very much, James. I appreciate that. They're on that channel so far. I'm just doing videos like this one is. I'm finding between doing all of this that it's just kind of, well, actually more this channel that we're on, it's all very recent crime, and they can hurt your heart sometimes. So every once in a while you need to kind of take a break. So I'll look back at some of these guys, kind of take a day or two break from the reality of life. And yeah, that is exactly what I've heard. I've not watched Wolf Creek. It would probably scare the living shit out of me because it's based on some form of reality. And mind you, I watch all this stuff. Like, I've been a junkie for true crime my entire life, and I'm 55, so it's not going to change now. And yeah, Ivan, I've always thought was like, really? You look at the guy when he was younger and doing this stuff. Oh, Roger, I did one on Roger Rogerson. And on this channel, I've also got Sally Huckstad, Spad. Why am I not saying that right? But yeah, I've got her, Huckstep. I've got her on this channel as well. And yeah, I love Aussie true crime too. It's just, I don't know if it's for the accents or... But every country's got their interesting characters, right? The other channel I also did Griselda Blanco. And she was a hero. An amazing hero. I agree with you. Yeah, I find all of this stuff. And it's kind of like a break from all the stuff that's happened currently. The Kylie Rogers case, I stuck to that. Rogers, there we go. Kylie's case, and when she was found, that was like a kick in the stomach. You knew that probably things weren't going to be good, but you still feel it, and this stuff, I'm kind of like you, like it's amazing stories, like how the hell did you do this, or how did that happen, or how would you ever think of, like, how their minds work, So, yeah, I'm really glad you're enjoying it, and I enjoy the current true crime. Like I said, I get emotionally invested, so doing one of these once in a while is really nice.
the list of suspects was narrowed from 230 to a shorter list of 32. So, speculation did arise that there was more than one terrorist effort. was shooting at him. Sounds like he was like zigzagging, and yeah, he was able to stop someone finally. Joanne Berry at Canberra, and they went to the cops and were able to describe the assailant and his vehicle to all the police there. So on April 13th, 1994, when detectives reached out to know regarding Paul Onions and his statement, they were also able to verify and corroborate by talking to Miss Berry, who stopped and rescued them. So Paul Onion flew to Australia from the UK to give evidence against Ivan. He would be the most important person at the trial. Paul Onion literally was, I think, the only one that we know of that was able to get out of Ivan's ute in the early 90s. January 1990, 3 weeks after Deborah Everest and James Gibson disappeared, Paul Onions had hitched a ride to Canberra, and sadly he ended up with Ivan Milat. Like, what kind of luck is that? All the people out in this world, you're going, what is the chances of running into a creek like that? Not many. Not a great chance. But yeah, this poor guy, not a good day. So he started to get a little bit sketched out because the man, Bill, was asking if anyone knew where he was headed, did he have any special forces training, just kind of questions that would make anyone uncomfortable when you're being asked by a stranger in a confined space that's moving at a high rate of speed. I might have jumped out of you. So, yeah, as the car approached the Belangalo State Forest, Bill pulled to the side and said he wanted to find something, cassette to play. Instead, he grabbed the gun and wrote, and then told Paul Onions that he didn't write. So, yeah, he made a run for it. And, yeah, he was one of the lucky ones, by the way. Paul did file a report with the police. They told him it was unlikely they would ever find the man, because as it turns out, 6 years later, Paul Onion's testimony would be, vital to getting Ivan Milat convicted. When police searched Ivan's house in southwestern Sydney in connection with Paul Onion's robbery, they found belongings to all 6 of his victims. There's also more belongings found at one of his brother's houses. But that brother never served time on these murders. Ivan was arrested in 1994, convicted in 1996 after an 18-week trial. Following a failed escape attempt, this guy just doesn't give up. In his first year behind bars, Millet was sent to maximum security prison in Goulburn, home to Australia's most dangerous criminals. In May, he was transferred to Long Bay in Sydney after he was diagnosed with terminal esophagus and stomach cancer. During this time in solitary confinement at Goulburn, much of his time was spent trying to appeal his convictions, to draw attention to himself. He did things like hunger strikes. He literally swallowed razor blades, staples. He cut off his pinky finger. Yeah. Not too mentally unstable. So while he was in prison, his family members basically split on whether he was really guilty. His great-nephew, Matthew Muleman, believed he was guilty. So in 2007, when Matthew Muleman was 14, he changed his name to Matthew Milat. Milat was his mom's maiden name, so Muleman was his stepfather's name. Though Matthew was just a little guy when Ivan was in jail, a friend said that he would brag about his great uncle. Then Matthew took things further. In November 2010, Matthew Milat, who was 17 at the time, and his friend Colin Klein invited their other friend, David Hatcheloni, out to celebrate his birthday. But instead of smoking pot, as they said they planned to do, Matthew tormented and then killed David with a double-sided axe. Well, Klein recorded the crime on his phone. The scene of the slaying was, of course, Belangalo State Forest. Same place where, Uncle Ivan's victims had been found. All he had to say was, that's what the Milats do. He's a sick little shit. Unreal. In 2012, a 19-year-old Matthew was sentenced to 42 years in prison. He will have to serve 30 before becoming eligible for parole. I don't know. Like I said, I'm in Canada, so I don't know what the laws are like in all these different places. But, if you're doing this to your buddy, why would you ever get out? He thought Uncle Ivan was a peach. I don't know. I guess Matthew's crime didn't even please Ivan. After speaking with Ivan about his great-nephew, Ivan was shocked and dismayed by Matthew's crime. Well, Ivan Milat always claimed to be innocent, right? He wouldn't boast about having another killer in the family. Ivan Milat was diagnosed with terminal cancer in May of 2019, and as his illness progressed, police tried to get him to confess to the murders he was convicted of, but up until his death, October 27, at the age of 74, he had still maintained his innocence. The interview was quite interesting to watch, as Ivan kept falling asleep or was pretending to fall asleep. But law enforcement are kind of poking him with stuff, and nurses kind of like, you alive there? You okay over there? This is like, oh my goodness, yeah. So they tried to talk to him, he just had a nap. So many people linked to the backpack murders held out little hope that Ivan Milat would tell more about his crimes or his death. But you know what? Ivan's record and convictions speak for themselves. 7 counts of murder, 1 account attempted murder, 1 count false imprisonment, 1 count robbery, criminal penalties, 7 life sentences without parole, 6 years imprisonment, attempted murder, 6 years imprisonment, false imprisonment, 6 years imprisonment for robbery. And as we know, he liked his weapons. At the time of his arrest, he had a .22 caliber Ruger and a 10-22 Bowling knife. Oh my goodness. So, although he never confessed, I've heard, read, seen that he told his mother Margaret. They were close. So not long before her death in 2001, he supposedly admitted to her what he had done. In May of 2015, Boris told Steve Patrion, a former homicide detective who serves as a consultant for the Los Angeles Police Department and the FBI, that Ivan admitted responsibility for another shooting, that of a taxi driver, Novell Knight, in 1962, after conducting polygraph tests with Boris Millet and Ellen Dillon, the man convicted of the shooting. Patrion was convinced that Millet shot Knight. So yeah, you know, I don't even know what else I can say. I'm probably not going to say much more about this guy. He is, major piece of crap. He does have a daughter, as we know. I know she's written a book. I've not read that. And when Ivan met his daughter's mom, she was 16. So he had a couple other issues going on as well. She left him because he was beating her up, and they divorced in October 1989. So yeah, that's Ivan Milat. I mean, never admitted a damn thing for 40-some years, just, yeah. And if the family knows anything, they've kept it quiet. If that other brother has anything to do with any of that back then I don't know. He got away with something, didn't he? But yeah, I just want to say rest in peace to all of those young men and women. They were going on an adventure of a lifetime in what is one of our safest countries. And they ran into one of the most evil men we've ever known. So, may they rest in peace, never be forgotten. And may Ivan Milat, I guess, burn in hell for as long as eternity lasts. So, yeah. That's what I have to say about that. So, for now, friends, I'm going to say once again, thank you ever so much for spending this time with me. I appreciate you more than you're aware of. On your way out, if you could hit that subscribe, like, and share, it would appreciate.
So yes, Ivan Milat. At least one other family member. I think you're right. I absolutely do. I absolutely do. Let's see here. Let's see. Looking. That's 2021, News 7.
If evil had a name, it would be his. I've stared into the abyss of the criminal mind for over 40 years now.
Okay.
Nothing had prepared me for Ivan Milat. 7 horrific backpacker murders are all Millat beyond reasonable doubt.
This site could turn into a backpacker's graveyard.
And while circumstances always pointed to the likelihood of other victims, we're going to prove it. In a 7 News documentary, crime experts Tim Watson-Munro and Drs. Ivan Milat apply criminology, circumstance, survivor accounts, and new forensic technology to identify more victims.
We also looked at geographic profiling, so how Millat used space and environment, and we also looked at different imaging technologies of Belangalo.
That includes laser technology to yield three-dimensional mapping of the forest.
It's almost like having X-ray vision, so it can strip away the foliage and you're left with the bare dirt, so you'll find trails of people that know existed.
The documentary claims Millat's calculated murderous lifestyle began in 1971 with pregnant 20-year-old Karen Rowland.
Pine needles scattered over her remains.
Exactly like Millat's other victims.
The investigation throws a wide blanket over possibilities, excluding some and homing in on others.
Others we couldn't exclude because there wasn't enough information, so we're sure of a small number, but there could be many more.
Definitely 4, they say, probably 6, possibly up to 20. People who would vanish exactly where.
This site
Oh.
could turn into a backpacker's graveyard.
And while
Back. Millat. Okay, there, stop for a second. So, yeah. I thought maybe we'll check this out, and then I've got another one I've got to do this afternoon, but I wanted to let everybody that's interested to kind of see who Millat was. A lot of people, of course, we haven't heard the name. The U.S. kind of keeps us busy in the crime department. But, yeah, for anybody who's kind of interested, I could watch these shorts, and I think I probably have actually watched every single thing on this man. You just can't believe that evil like this exists.
And horrific backpacker murders are all Millat beyond reasonable doubt.
This site could turn into a backpacker's graveyard.
And while circumstances always pointed to the likelihood of other victims, we're going to prove it. In a 7 News documentary, crime experts Tim Watson-Munro and Drs. Ivan Milat apply criminology, circumstance, survivor accounts, and new forensic technology to identify more victims.
We also looked at geographic profiling, so how Millat used space and environment, and we also looked at different imaging technologies of Belangalo.
That includes laser technology to yield three-dimensional mapping of the forest.
It's almost like having X-ray vision, so it can strip away the foliage and you're left with the bare dirt, so you'll find trails of people that know existed.
The documentary claims Millat's calculated murderous lifestyle began in 1971 with pregnant 20-year-old Karen Rowland.
Pine needles scattered over her remains.
Exactly like Millat's other victims.
The investigation throws a wide blanket over possibilities, excluding some and homing in on others.
Others we couldn't exclude because there wasn't enough information, so we're sure of a small number, but there could be many more.
Definitely 4, they say, probably 6, possibly up to 20. People who would vanish exactly where Ivan Milat worked his day job digging ditches. Federal police are working with the criminologists. They have reopened the Rowland case.
There is one, and that is foul play. No doubt about that.
Right up until Ivan Milat drew his final contemptuous breath at Long Bay Jail, police were asking him about other victims, and he always said nothing. This investigation, it's hoped, can rob him in death of the power he exercised over people in life. Robert Abardia, 7 News.
He never... Let's see here. He never did admit to any of this. He didn't... I think the only one... Other than, the possibility that one of his brothers was involved, he didn't talk to anybody. Maybe his mom. But yeah, that's it. And I think, like I was saying, there's a hell of a lot more victims out there than anybody is aware of. And of course they do have DNA, which they will be able to compare with other crimes, if there was DNA left with them. You know, the thing is when you're going this far back, you hear of a lot of cases that stuff has been lost or thrown out. And I don't know why they would throw it out, but I've heard of it happening. So, yeah, I think any place that he was with the road crew or driving truck, they have to check all those areas like that video was just saying. And News 7 is actually, I'm going to put this video in the description down below, but they've got really good coverage on a lot of these cases, so I'd highly recommend checking them out. Maybe be a member. Let's see. I think the Australian police like the case being closed. Absolutely. You know, I don't think any of them want to go back and reopen these cases, but some of it's going to be, you know, out of their control, because if there's a DNA match, if anybody decides to pick up one of these cases and there's DNA matches, they are going to have to open up that case. They are going to have to take a look. And maybe if they did that, we would get some more answers. You know, what I found really interesting is Simone Schmidl, for example. Her stuff was found somewhere else. And another person, nothing of hers was around, but she had like all of Simone's stuff with them. And then I think it might have been, it's not, do you remember the one? Like, his stuff was gone and found like something like 60, 70 miles in another direction. It's just bizarre. And, you know, talking about whether or not one of the brothers, you're talking, there's that William. Well, to me, there's so many of those Milats that look so similar. Like, look at the ones that are singing where Ivan is singing with one of his brothers. Now, I don't know which brother that is right now, but they, if you look at their faces, other than a little bit difference in height, they look very similar. And the other one, now what is his name? He's in one of where they've got the collage with the brothers in it and then the daughter. Well, I watched him in an interview, and his eyes are like ice cubes. And he just is talking about things that were found in his home, in his garage. And the person that's interviewing says, well, you don't think that's a little sus? And he's like, no, I don't find that sus at all. Like, I think the cops put it in there. It's like, oh my word. We see, that's the thing. Right, James? Yeah, the Bill. Exactly. William. So, it's makes you wonder, doesn't it? If that could have been Bill in that ute that picked up, say, Paul Onions. If he's the brother, one of the brothers that look a lot like Ivan, well then, yeah. But they should, Paul Onion's case, that's going to be strictly on him identifying him, I guess. But the other cases, you know, especially with the backpackers, I'm sure they've got lots of DNA. And then they have those cases that was at the end of the video there that there's no answer yet. So they need to be testing that, don't they? Thank you so much for popping in, Alice. You're just awesome. Busy, busy girl you are. I've just got a few, not even a few, I just got a couple mods, and I tell you what, they are awesome. I'm a lucky girl to have met these people. So, okay, but you see, I'll put that up. So, yeah, I think there was a Bill and a William, 2 different brothers. So, it is said that Ivan went by Bill by a lot of people, not just victims. He was, for some reason, yeah, he went by, I mean, I don't know, Ivan, Bill, or maybe, I don't know, was it actually a Bill, or was Ivan trying to throw his brother under the truck? Or, yeah, I don't know, right? The only thing that's going to kind of help us out is that DNA. If we can have DNA on a lot of this stuff. Now, if they're looking at that stuff that was in that one brother's garage, let me see, maybe I can just, I'm going to see if I can find it. Sorry about, so yeah, 10 brothers images. So yeah, let's do this. We'll look at some of these pictures. Oh, thank you so much, Alice, because you have no idea how much I appreciate you. Okay, so I'm not sure if it's going to say, but this is the brother I was saying, you know, that looks so much, in my opinion, like, in my opinion, yeah. There's another brother, I don't know which one he is. Oh, Paul. So, no, it doesn't give names. Okay, I think this is Boris. And now he is like the kindest flippin' soul, I swear. And he doesn't believe for 2 seconds that Ivan was innocent. Is there anything that shows his name? Come on. Richard defends backpack killer of the day. You see, like, look at, they all kind of have that similar. It's funny because he wasn't bad looking when he was a kid. Well, that sure changed. So you see more brothers. This guy does not look. But that one, yes. And Boris, he's just got this. There's Boris there. See, and that one there. And that one there. This guy seems really nice. This guy's got, like, yeah, an interesting attitude. And they did find, that was the brother that they found stuff in his garage. This is his daughter. Millet again. See, yeah, like this guy, Boris, he does. He's heartbroken that Ivan was, not that he was capable, probably that partially, but the fact that he hurt so many people, like it seems to really affect him. He's the one, right? I agree. Sorry, I'm just leaving you hanging up there. All pseudonyms, different names depending on... Okay, the brothers seem to all have different pseudonyms depending on the circumstances. Doesn't he, Alice? That's the thing. Like, oh, look at, of course, they got it. But that's the thing. Like, when he was younger, I guess he was quiet. And he must have been a player because he was cheating with Boris's wife at the same time as one of the other brothers. And he was doing this at the same time. So it's always interesting to me because it's not like he had problems getting women. That wasn't an issue. So that was not what he was after when he was doing this stuff. He was strictly after fear and violence. Not after, even though SA was involved, I just think that was probably more of a way to degrade these women more than something that he needed to do. I think what he wanted and needed to do was that violence. And he was violent. And a control freak, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like even look at him, his eyes. And then look at him. Like, okay. Yeah. Paul. See, now this brother, I'm still not getting I'm not getting his name yet. He's the one that's married to the lady with the red hair, and they support Ivan. Not so good looking there, huh? Does it say his name here yet? Just says that in denial about his guilt. And Boris tells why he thinks Ivan killed 7 backpackers. Maybe? Another victim, they're saying. Another brother. Yeah. There's him and his wife. She's she's thin now. They're both a lot thinner. I would guess so. I'm sure having him for a brother was not stressful at all. So yeah, there's Boris, and I do believe he married the neighbor, and he was messing with that one and another one. Ew. Okay, mentally scarred. This is from that movie, right? Wolf Creek? There's Ivan. He's not saying the name, and I imagine that's one of the nephews. Yeah, that's that cranky brother. But he's also thinned out. There's the ute. This is what he'd be driving all over the place, doing what he did. He was using that. And he did have a big thing for guns. Yeah, 60 Minutes has a couple good pieces with Boris. I'd recommend them. See what you're doing over here. Control freak. Well, actually, no, he's dead. But the other brothers, the ones that were older, I mean, he died older. He died in his 70s, and he was the 5th boy out of the 10 boys. So I imagine there's a couple still living, but for the most part, yeah, they've all passed on. And he did a lot of damage before he got caught, that boy. Unreal. So let's see. Yeah, I would call him the Wolf Creek Killer. See if there's any clips. See if there's anything interesting. A lot of it talking about him passing away. I imagine that was big news. Oh, what's this? Never seen that.
Serial killer Ivan Milat told police he couldn't reveal any information about his crimes, even if police put a blowtorch to his eyes.
Damn, I just can't believe he would just like sleep through these. Okay. Let's see if I can stop that. Okay. No, stop it.
The voice of a cold
Stop.
heart.
Shush. Right? Cold Dead Eyes. Cold Dead Eyes is right. Oh, here we go. No, you know what? I'm going to save this for a different... I'm going to save this for a different time. But it's Chopper Reed. Okay, let's go through this one a little bit.
Ivan Milat for the murder of the 7 backpackers, Justice David Hunt said it was clear to him that the killer had not acted alone. Now, if the judge is right, then who were Ivan Milat's accomplices? During the trial, Milat's own lawyer maintained that the police had the wrong Milat. Someone else in the family, he said, was the killer. There was victims' gear found at family members' homes, other than Ivan's, and there was evidence that one brother had said he knew where other bodies were to be found and to have spoken about stabbing women. Just prior to the jury's verdict, some members of the Milat family agreed to this quite remarkable interview. Throughout the investigation in the Belangalo Forest, and then at the trial, it was always suspected that more than one person was involved in the murder of the backpackers. 6 of the backpackers had been killed in pairs, and in varying ways too. And with those who were shot, more than one weapon had been used. Also, bullets had been fired from several directions. Then at the trial, it was Milat's own barrister who pointed the finger at others in the family, including Richard Milat.
Oh, let's go back here. Sorry, guys. Leave it to me. Leave it to me every time. Let's go back there. Where's Richard? I'm having one of those days. But yeah, okay, this is the brother that they say is possibly, okay, so yeah, same guy, right? Uncle Chop Chop. Yeah, so yeah, this one here.
Gear found at family members' homes, other than Ivan's, and there was evidence that one brother had said he knew where other bodies were to be found and to listen to the stabbing. Prior to the jury's verdict, some members of the Milat family agreed to this quite remarkable interview. Throughout the investigation in the Belangalo Forest, and then at the trial, it was always suspected that more than one person was involved in the murder of the backpackers. 6 of the backpackers had been killed in pairs, and in varying ways too. And with those who were shot, more than one weapon had been used. Also, bullets had been fired from several directions. Then at the trial, it was Milat's own barrister who pointed the finger at others in the family, including Richard Milat, the man here on the left. With Richard are his brother William and William's wife, Caroline.
There can be absolutely no doubt whoever committed all 8 offences must be within the Milat family or very, very closely associated to it. Can you see that? Why would your brother's counsel say that blind Freddie can see that and you can't?
I've got no idea. I'm not a lawyer. I've got no idea at all.
Mr. Richard Millet, you'd be aware, I take it.
So they're both what Richard is. See, there's so many of them. Richard, Bills, Williams, good Lord, Martha.
That there's been widespread speculation two men were involved in the murders.
Well, we say anything.
The two men most suspected, one you, and the other your brother, Walter.
Well, that's what they say.
What do you say?
Well, I say it's got no truth at all.
You didn't do it. Had nothing to do with it.
So this guy looks like Ivan. He's one of the brothers to me that it's like, and he's got those eyes. To me, he looks a lot like Ivan out of all the brothers. He's definitely, to me, one that I'm not surprised. But this interview, the things that are said in the next few seconds here is important in my mind.
At the trial, Richard Milat was subjected to intense cross-examination about involvement in the murder, as was another brother, Walter. But Walter was not prepared to be interviewed. Now, nobody has suggested that Mr. William Milat was himself involved in the murders, but he and his wife Carolyn provided Ivan with alibis as to his whereabouts on crucial dates. It was at William and Carolyn's home on the New South Wales Southern Tablelands that this interview was recorded.
When this happens to a family, people have no idea how it destroys you inside. We are destroyed. In fact, my entire family, my extended family, we're all destroyed.
If for argument's sake, that he did do it, I could tell you now, I for one, would not support him in
So I don't believe that this brother or his wife have anything to do with what went on. I don't see it. So I think William is Matthew's grandfather, and yes, I think you're right there. I think that's exactly how it goes.
Away in this world.
Would you lie to protect yourself and other members of the family?
Well, what sort of question is that? Would you lie to make $1 on your job?
No, I wouldn't.
Would you lie to protect yourself? Would you lie to protect your job? Would you lie and say that you never cheated on tax?
You see, he's not answering himself or these questions very well. He's making himself look a little worse, in my opinion.
Would you lie and say you never did anything?
I don't cheat on tax.
You don't lie and cheat on anything?
No.
I've got no qualms about it.
But
I don't say I'm lying to protect anybody.
Ivan Milat was also known as Bill, Bargo Bill, Joe Spanner, Tex, and Texas. But to his family, though, he was known simply as Mac.
Let's talk a little bit about Ivan. I mean, you're closer to him in age. Could you tell me about his school days at Patrion Brothers School? Can you remember?
He's pretty inward, he's pretty smart. He didn't like school, I know that. Neither did Indians like school very much at the time.
Did you get on well with him?
Mac, yeah, I get on very well.
Was he a violent man?
No.
Never?
Never violent.
I find that very interesting because it's amazing how many of these people get away with things without their families even having a clue.
It wasn't till years later that I looked at the back of the photo and I had wrote my son was 18 months old. There was no way in the world this little baby was 18 months old.
Okay, well, do you think you got it wrong when you changed the photo date?
Well, obviously.
You did?
There was no intent behind my changing.
Well, it just happened to provide an alibi, but anyway, in the aftermath, the alibi doesn't stand up.
Well, that's how it looks, doesn't it?
what do you believe of the evidence against your brother-in-law?
Well, I haven't seen all of the evidence. What I have seen, it is circumstantial, and it is pretty horrific.
It touches him, it fingers him, it identifies him.
Unfortunately, yes.
So, beyond reason.
And still in their mind, Ivan had like nothing to do with this.
Will doubt he did it?
Oh, no. No way.
No way. 3 separate murder victims, and their goods are found at your brother's house, and it doesn't even raise a bit of a suspicion in your mind that maybe he murdered them?
No, it doesn't. As I said to you before, I know this man.
So, Mr. Richard Millet, can you explain for me, please, the property of the murdered women that was found at your place?
I can't explain the property. I've been set up by the police before.
Well, we'll come to that. But give me your explanation, please. How come Carolyn Clark, this is the woman with got 10 bullets to the head, her sleeping bag cover, her sleeping mat, and her tent were found in your garden shed?
That's only hearsay.
No, it's not hearsay at all, it's the evidence.
Evidence of who?
And the sleeping bag of Joanne Walters, 22-year-old place, was found in a cupboard in that same shed. Can you explain what it is?
I don't know. Can't explain. What do you mean explain? How it got in the cupboard? How it was there?
Yep.
I can't be sure.
Now, if you can't be sure, then is it reasonable for the likes of me and others to speculate that maybe you had something to do with it getting there?
Well, I don't know. You want to trust the police?
Well, for a moment I'll trust you if you tell me.
Yeah, well, I can't say.
Or would you accept it looks a bit sus?
No, I don't accept that it looks a bit sus.
What, that there's the property of murdered women in your garden shed and you reckon it's not sus?
How many people have identified this stuff?
You want to know how many were murdered?
I know how many people were murdered.
By your family?
By my family, yeah, I'd like to know how many.
Well, on the evidence, or on the word, the say-so of your brother's counsel, 7.
7. It's a nice number.
When at Christmas, 1993, you felt the police moving in, you assisted your brother, Ivan, to get some guns out of his house.
No, I didn't know the police were moving in. I did not assist him. I just moved some guns in.
I mean, would you accept it looks just a trifle suspicious?
Well, how suspicious does it look if you think that we did it? I went and moved all them guns, you so-called people. Why didn't we take that other bit that the police found? Why didn't we throw that in the river? Can you explain that? Can you explain that to me at all? Why would we move all this stuff that's got nothing to do with it and leave the stuff the police say has got something to do with it? Why would we leave that there? Are we just stupid? Am I crazy? Am I mad? Maybe I am. I don't know. I'm not an expert either.
Tell me, why did your work colleague, Desmond Butler, say that you told him, I know who killed the Germans?
Why said it? But so like he said at court, eventually he said, I did not speak about any of this until we read it in the paper.
He said you did say that, so why is he lying about you?
I don't know why he said it. I haven't got one clue why he would say that at all.
Well, he did say that.
I don't know.
Well, if you take my word for it, he did say that. Why do you... Stabbing a woman is like cutting a loaf of bread.
I don't think so.
Don't think so.
I've never cut a woman, so how would I know if it was cutting a loaf of bread?
No, it wasn't cutting a woman, it was stabbing a woman.
Stabbing? I never stabbed a woman either. I never stabbed a man either.
Tell me why you people have agreed to do this interview.
We want to put our point across there that we're victim there and made victim by nothing of our own doing there, and we were pretty well convinced that this is an opportunity to put our point across there so we can have a fair hearing.
Why did you agree to do anything? Why not?
That's what I'm like. I don't want to say. I just don't want to say, mate.
Well, Richard, in most part, there, because we'd asked him to do it, because the outcome of this is going to affect Richard greatly, the outcome of this trial.
Right.
There's been threats that he's going to be arrested, and that is what they've told us is going to happen.
You reckon you're going inside?
I don't know. I couldn't trust inside for what? And we're not going inside for anything I did.
Inside for what? Inside for murder.
Yeah, I don't think so. No way, 100% positive that I should go inside for murder. Not any reason.
I feel suspicious. You may have said that. Well, may you have also said stabbing a woman is like cutting a loaf of bread.
I don't think so.
So yeah, I find this interesting. Like, he sure denies the crap out of it, doesn't he?
We'd asked him.
Yeah, not where I want to be.
So why should I go there?
Well, accepting your word, what about going inside as being an accomplice to
I
murder?
still think no way.
You went
Why
there.
should I? I weren't there. I had nothing to do with it. I never knew anything about it. And I still don't.
And you never will.
Never will.
The Milat family received no payment for that interview.
So yes, the Milats. So it gives us a little bit of an idea what was going on with the brother and what have you. But you know what? I'm going to thank you for being here with me. I've just about gone 2 hours again. Oh, right, doesn't he? He looks absolutely, yep, spidey senses, that's what I call it as well. Well, absolutely, thanks for being here, and pop in next time. It's always nice to have someone to hash over these different cases with. So yeah, thank you ever so much, and I'm sure I'll have another update on one of these other cases fairly soon. There's some that are moving, so I will see you there. Okay, bye.